Hello, everyone. This is Wendy, and I intended to have this conversation in front of the Catholic Church in Key West. It was named Basilica of St. Mary, the Star of the Sea. It caught my attention, and since this is kind of a sermon type of a message, I thought, that's a good place to share it. So, while in Key West at the post office, a woman had told me that she heard about another woman who had been raped, and it was caught on the live cam at the southernmost point. I shared with her how just a few days earlier, I myself had been approached in broad daylight by someone who was trying to lure me to the side of his van. My goal is to help heal our country. There's a lot of trauma in this country. There's a lot of distrust. And the distrust between men and women it's not isolated to our country, it's all of humanity. And there's good reason for this distrust. Men, and I'm not speaking about all men, but we tend to stereotype, men have a long history of being abusive towards women. And women have developed a pretty nasty reputation of their own. In order to start healing our country, we have to deal with these tough topics. No one can control what somebody else does. They can only control what they themselves do. I am very familiar with the Jezebel spirit. I went through a very bitter stage in my life. I went through this stage because I was victimized and became very bitter. I know what caused the Jezebel spirit within myself. And it was very hard to undo and to get rid of that bitterness. I don't know what causes men to rape and abuse women, but they need to get down to the bottom of what causes them to be abusive towards women and heal their inner child and stop being abusers. Because we're doing it to each other. Right now, the culture is a mess. It's full of a lot of loveless acts. We as individuals need to heal from the wounds and the trauma that happened during our lives. And when we heal our own wounds, our own trauma, then we can turn and give advice to others. All right, so first begins with our own healing. One of the biggest problems is that people who are victims tend to talk about what happened to them in an effort to get healing. But oftentimes they turn to young, impressionable people who then get tainted on the subconscious level, and they form bitterness towards the opposite sex, even though they themselves were not victimized. Young, impressionable minds develop these ugly attitudes at a very young age. For instance, if you're raised with the opinion that guys are only using you to get off and that they have no intention on ever marrying you, if a young person is raised with that opinion, then they may grow up with the opinion, well, if that's the case, then I'm going to take this guy for everything he's got, right? And so they're not, you've got a girl who's doesn't have it in her mind that she wants to build a genuine relationship. She's just going to take what she can get because she's of the impression that that's what the guy wants. And perhaps that young man, that wasn't his intention at all. Because, we're not all created the same. That might be true with a certain percentage of young men, but possibly not all of them. And so at its core, society is damaged at its most basic level, its subconscious level of each individual. As these bad programs, these bad thoughts get passed down from generation to generation, and they don't improve. They're not going to improve until someone calls them out on it and say, look, this is the problem. We've got to fix this. And so, how do we fix it? First, we have to identify the problem and the solution, then become the change that we want to see. A lot of people would like to argue that the Bible is just a bunch of rules meant to hold them back. Well, that's kind of the prodigal son mindset. Actually, the Bible is a set of guidelines that help us navigate through life. And if we follow them, then we will have a more prosperous life. Science is now starting to prove that the Bible was correct. Sociology is a form of science, and the study of humanity has proven that men who are happily married live much longer than single men who are miserable. It's proven. It's fact. The Bible promoted marriage when God said, "It is not good for man to be alone. I will make a suitable helper for him." After God created Eve, Adam identified her as being a woman because she came from man, and he said that she was bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. That is how a man is supposed to love his wife. First, he loves himself, then he loves his wife as himself. If a guy doesn't want to be cheated on, well, then he shouldn't cheat. And if he doesn't want a woman to flirt with other men, then he shouldn't flirt with other women. A man needs to treat his woman like how he wants to be treated. Anything less than this is hypocritical. And Jesus did not like hypocrites. Science has proven that children who are raised with both a mother and father in the home do much better in life than the children that are raised in broken homes. In the Bible, God tells people to be good to the widow and the fatherless. However, he also says that the sins of the father will pass down to the children, to the third and fourth generation. There's evidence of this in the Bible where the Ten Commandments are given. And God warns that the sins of the father would pass down to the third and fourth generation of those who do not love him. And the only way to break this curse is for a child to step up and say, I love you, God, and start serving God. Then the curse is broken. However, children who are raised in an environment that is godless, that curse will pass down on them. This biblical truth is proven scientifically because broken homes do lead to dysfunctional people. And I'm speaking from my own experience. I came from a broken home, and I know the unnecessary challenges that are imposed on young kids who are from a broken home. And so now, here we are with a broken society. How do we fix it? We only have control of ourselves. And so the first step is to heal from our own personal traumas. Don't even worry about the opposite sex. Stop pointing fingers at them. Deal with yourself. Ask yourself, why do I do the things that I do? Is it because you have mommy issues? Is it because you have daddy issues? Why do you do the things that you do? Then try to see things from a different perspective. Step out of yourself and into the shoes of your enemy. Why do they do the things that they do? Right? Why did your mommy do this to you or your daddy do that to you? Did your dad molest you because he was molested? See, this stuff is generational. It passes down. By showing empathy to others, you're actually healing yourself. Because everyone has a reason for doing the things that they do. After you heal yourself by showing empathy to even your enemies and forgiving them too, once you heal yourself, then find yourself someone who is healed and have a relationship and find some happiness in the world. Then you can be an example for other people. You can give advice to other people. You can let them know what worked for you. Stop going to people complaining about your spouse, feeding into the frenzy of the war of the sexes. Stop it. If you need to speak to someone about your spouse, go to marriage counseling. That's what it's there for. Stop bashing the opposite sex. Get the counseling you need. Figure it out. Anyway, it's time to identify the problem, offer a solution, and become part of the change that we want to see. My name is Wendy, and we're all living in the winds of change.